So there's been lots of polling data recently that shows that yes, Republicans are poised to win back the House of Representatives in the 2022 midterms later this year. But there is something that these pollsters, based on their own admission, are not actually taking into account. As it stands right now, more Republicans across the country have died of COVID-19 than Democrats have. In fact, that number, the disparity between the two, is at least 70,000 more Republicans have died from COVID than Democrats have. Other estimates say it could be as many as hundreds of thousands of Republicans dead versus the number of Democrats dead. That's a pretty massive amount of people that have died, first and foremost. But that is a number that, again, according to these pollsters' own estimates, they're not taking into consideration when they do these polls. And here's what I mean. There was a great new report that came out talking about the fact that pollsters are standing by all the polls that have come out about the midterms. They say, no, our data is accurate. We're basing it off of the census populations. Y'all know when the census was taken, right? Yeah, 2020. You're doing polls in 2022 based on 2-year-old data after almost 1 million people in the country died. Do you see why? You see why your estimates suddenly don't make any sense, and your explanation as to why they do make sense actually makes even less sense? You're not taking into account the number of people who have died. And again, like I say, this is the elephant in the room that we're gonna have to start talking about. How do all of these deaths factor into the results of the 2022 midterms? Let me give you an example of what I mean when I say that these could absolutely change the outcomes that we see in November. In the 2018 Florida gubernatorial election, Ron DeSantis beat Democrat Andrew Gillum by 34,000 votes. 34,000 votes. It was actually the closest margin of any gubernatorial race in 2018. 34,000 votes. You know how many COVID deaths we've had here in Florida so far? Over 73,000. Do you know who was mostly affected by those deaths? Who most of the deaths were? Republicans. They came from the Republican areas of the state mostly. So, if we base this on current numbers, then that would mean enough Republicans would have died in the state of Florida to make it to where, if the turnout is the same as 2018, Ron DeSantis can't win. You see what I mean when I say that these individuals are currently not factoring in these COVID deaths? And to give you an even better example of why you can't base any polls right now off of the 2020 census numbers, here it is. Suppose in the census you have an area, okay, and it is a 60-40 Republican-Democrat split, right? For every 6 Republicans, there's 4 Democrats. So out of 10 people, 6 are Republican, 4 are Democrats. Suppose the pollsters do their randomization and they contact the people in this county. They would want to contact 6 Republicans and 4 Democrats to get their views on the 2022 midterms. That's how polling works. You know, if you're in an area that's 60-40, you do 6 and 4. If you're doing 10, whatever, you can do the math from there. But if this area saw 10,000 Republicans die, but only 5,000 Democrats die, and they only have a population of 60,000, which I know those numbers would be way smaller than that. You get what I'm saying? Suddenly, you're at about a 50-50 split, but you've overpolled Republicans, giving them more representation in your polling data because you based it off of 2020 census numbers that are no longer accurate because of the nearly 1 million deaths we've had in America. I know these pollsters, right? You want to give them credit, but they don't deserve it. They're literally, in this piece I'm talking about here they are defending their polling. All adults, regardless of voter registration status, are interviewed because we utilize recent census data of the 18-year-old and over population for weighing purposes. Weighting is a statistical adjustment of the data. Gender, age, education, race, and region are the demographics that are weighted to reflect census information. To reflect census information that is already outdated because of COVID. What I'm telling you is look to polls as a guide. Don't look at them as hard evidence at this point, because by their own admission, these pollsters are doing it wrong, and COVID will, in fact, play a massive role in who wins the 2022 midterms. Is it enough to actually flip any seats? Maybe. It might actually be. And if these numbers continue to climb, for the record, we're still at about 1,000 deaths per day. 2,000 deaths per day last month. It's not going away. It's getting slightly better. But at this rate, of course, we could expect another 300, 400, 500,000 Americans dead before we even hit the midterms. So yes, the polling is off. But don't take that to mean Democrats have this in the bag either. We had a fight like hell. But Republicans may also be a little overly optimistic about their chances, seeing as how they have a good number of their supporters who didn't make it through the pandemic. Hey everyone, this is Aspen. And did you know that for the low cost of $0 per day, you can subscribe to the Fair and Balanced YouTube channel? We also encourage you to like, comment, and share, but again, click that subscribe button and help Aspen not be so grumpy.